We'll open up to questions.
Seemed like pretty intense post-game based on what you said and what Vic said. As much as you can share, what was talked about after the game in the locker room?
We just are disappointed. Not just with the result, but with the way we played, the way we handled some tough situations, and we talked about it as a team. There's not really a whole much, certain things stay in the locker room. There's not really a whole lot left to say other than that publicly.
You mentioned the competition, and they're now number one. You mentioned you played Ohio State and Arizona and all those guys. How close do you think you really are? I mean, at times you've been close, and then at times momentum goes the other way.
Yeah, I haven't spent even one iota of time trying to think about it like that. I think the one thing, and I said this after the game, and I'll say it again today, we played against the teams that are ranked at the top of the country. We've had moments that we played with them that gives you confidence that you can. We have to continue to become a team that's more consistent in doing the right things all the time. And that's all I'm thinking about, and all my focus on isn't trying to figure out exactly where we stand today amongst that group. It's about, okay, we know we can do it. We have to do it more consistently. And we're going to work every second to try to get to a point that we're improving in that area.
The consistency part, I remember last year you got into conference play, felt like because of the schedule, maybe the lack of practice time, that hurt you. So what's different this year? What are you trying to do to avoid, maybe similar things happen or close the gap?
What's different in terms
of?
So
this year, what are you doing to avoid, where you can find that consistency even with the schedule and with having the lack of practice time that comes in conference play?
You got to maximize the time that you have. That's why practice is really important here today. You got to use everything that's happened as an opportunity to learn and grow. So we had a film session. We had a film session this morning, and digested the Houston game a little bit. And you got to use those moments, not just the time on the practice floor, to learn and grow and approach things with the right frame of mind. And then you got to be able to also switch gears and get to preparation. Games are coming quick in league play, and you can't dwell. You got to learn, you got to address things, and then you got to grow and move on. And that's what mature teams do, and that's the way we're trying to approach it.
Russ, then Scott.
Are there any injury updates or timetables for Rob Fennessy and John Newman?
I wouldn't say there's a timetable yet. Both of their rehab is going well today. The reports that I get weekly from our trainer, Bob Mangine, are that they're on track for approaching it the right way. Rob started shooting, so he's actually moving around and doing some things on the basketball court, but nothing full speed yet, nothing live. I think when you get to this point, you don't push it too hard because you don't want to take a step backwards. But when guys are starting to move around and getting the ball in their hands, you're heading in the right direction. John's recovery process is much longer, as everybody knows, so it's just going to be a lot longer of a process. But Rob's is moving along, on schedule, if we ever had a schedule type of thing.
Odie had a tough game. Do you anticipate keeping the same starting five, or is that to be determined?
That's always to be determined, but you guys have covered me now long enough to know I don't make rash decisions based on that. I think players respond best over time to consistency, so we're not going to get too up and down, but we're always going to evaluate what's best for our team.
Inconsistency was brought up. How much is inconsistency a mental mindset more than execution?
Yeah, it's both. One affects the other, vice versa. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You're not going to always have segments you play great. That's just basketball. That's competition. You're going to have moments where the other team makes runs. And so I'm not saying we got to consistently play our best basketball every second, but there has to be a consistent approach and a consistent attention to detail, consistent togetherness. And this team's really grown a lot in those ways from, back, early in the preseason till now, but it's just got to be 40 minutes. And I think when we get to the point we're doing that for 40 minutes, we're going to be pretty damn good.
I know defense has always been a big thing for you. Is there a specific identity you want this team to have that you can, put into an easy, digestible sentence, phrase, or whatever? And maybe what is the gap that's left to get there on the floor?
I don't know if I have like a great buzz sentence for you for a headline, but yes, I have an identity, and it's to be a team that every single possession has 5 guys that are connected, that's committed to our defensive principles, that makes the quality of the other team's shot lower, that cleans the defensive glass, right? That gets our hands on balls and deflects balls so we can get out and run. Then I can keep going. It puts our chest on the ball and rotates to the ball and communicates well. Yeah, I don't have the perfect sentence for you, but we as a staff and the guys in our locker room know what our identity needs to be defensively. Again, there's always multiple ways to look at it. You're coming off a game where you're disappointed with some stretches, so we're kind of pissed off today. But in the big picture, we're improving defensively. We've improved defensively from, Maui till now. It's been pretty consistent, the improvement, even though if it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. But we just have to keep improving and stay at it every day. And I do think this team's gotten better, and a lot of individuals have improved defensively over the course of the season so far.
I know it's easier said than done, but what is it holding the team back from having that full, complete 40 minutes?
I don't know if I have the perfect answer for you there. If I did, you probably wouldn't be asking the question. But I think sometimes you got to put in perspective that if you were doing everything and clicking on every cylinder in January, then maybe the heck are we in here talking about anyway? And the thing that we're trying to figure out with this group is how to have the right approach night in, night out for 40 minutes. And that's the thing that we got to figure out, because we've shown we can do it. And we're working at it every day. I think the kids are aware of it. Our staff's aware of it. We're trying to create practices to address that. We're trying to address those things in film. If there was some magic formula, you guys tell me and I'll use it, and then life will be a lot easier as a coach. But it's like anything else. It's just working at it every single day.
East Carolina has a new coach and new starters. What have you seen of them on tape?
The first thing that really jumps out is how hard they play. He's done a terrific job of getting them to play with edge. They're like top 30 in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. And that jumps off the page statistically, but when you watch them play, I always like to watch a team play before I look at any statistical analysis and kind of see what jumps off the page to me first, and then kind of use those statistics to, either reiterate what I already believe, or maybe, show me some things that I missed. And when you start looking at this, you're sitting there watching and going, man, they just play so hard. They're competitive, they're physical, and then you look down and they're top 30 in the country in offensive rebounding, and you go, yeah, that makes sense. And so that's the first thing, and that's one of the best compliments I can give to a coach and a team, is how hard they play. Their backcourt, which is 2 guys that were there a year ago as freshmen that got a lot of playing time in this league and had some really good moments. Those 2 guys, Felton and Small, have really taken a huge step forward as players. They've taken that freshman to sophomore leap. So they present some problems, and they're big and physical, and they both shoot it better than they did a year ago, and they're both guys that can score off the bounce. They have a 4-man Johnson that really stretches you out and shoots it, and he gets it off quick. He shoots it with range. I keep going down the roster, but there's a freshman, Ezra Zur, that they're playing at the center position, that he started to play more for him here over the last 5 or 6 games, and he's really changed their team because he has the ability to kind of drive it he's got perimeter type skills, but big, strong kid, and he drives it. He's explosive. He rebounds. So that I can keep going down. They've done a nice job, especially from where they started early in the year till now. They've kept improving.
You mentioned after the game Sunday that you thought Kalu deserved another chance. After watching film, did you see anything that really stood out to you? And what did you think of his performance on Sunday after watching the film?
Yeah, I thought he added to the game when he played. He's approached being buried on the bench the way that you expect people to approach it. And he's just kind of come in the gym, worked every day, and tried to play with a little edge in practice to show that he wants to be out there. And even when he does that and has a good practice and then doesn't get in the game, he comes back and does it the next day. So we've been saying here, not just going into the game against Houston, but we were saying going into the game against Temple and going into the game against Wichita, hey, I think Kalu can play in this game. We've been saying that for multiple games now, and it just so happened that we needed him, and he went in and did some nice things.
You've talked about David and the steps he's taken defensively. Do you need someone to do that with John out? And then is there any like balance or fear that maybe that might take away a little bit from what David can give you offensively?
Yeah, everybody on this team, if you looked at us early and we weren't guarding, it was an emphasis to everybody in that locker room that we need more defensively. That it was for everybody, for every player. And I've never believed in I play my tail off on one end and it affects the other end. I mean, you're a competitor and you're a basketball player, you compete, period. Period. Like, there's no I give too much effort one way and I save it for something else. That's a bunch of baloney as far as I'm concerned. And I think early on, back in November, I had some conversations with David and with Landers as older, experienced players that they have to really step up their efforts and their focus defensively, not just in the game, but in the way they're practicing and their habits. And I think over a period of time, they've both made significant efforts to do that. But I'm not mentioning that because it's on them. I think who they are on our team, when they do that, it brings everybody else along. And John was kind of the guy that did that day in, day out. He was the guy that made everybody want to just work a little harder on the defensive end. David and Landers have done a really nice job of that. But no, I've never believed in doing one thing on one end. You put the jersey on, especially this one here, you're expected to play your ass off. And that's in every single second that clock is ticking.
Mike Adams-Woods has been really consistent the last handful of games. You want to get Rob back, but is that a good problem to have, I guess, because you got a guy on the floor that's doing pretty well, but you need the depth?
You've never looked at like getting a good player back thinking that hurts another good player. I mean, we'll take all the help we can get, and that should only help Micah. But Micah's been terrific. I think the biggest difference, he's improved in every little area, right? Like that you want to see from one year to the next. But he's such an offensive threat now that you have to respect him and guard him. And you're seeing people in our league are starting to realize that. You can't just play off of him, and they did that at times last year. You have to respect him and guard it because he can really shoot it, guys. I mean, he can really shoot the ball. And when he takes the right ones, which he's doing more and more, and, plays the right way, which he's doing more and more, his numbers and his efficiency really start to step forward. But I am pleased with his development, and like all of them, I still want more. But Mike has done some good things.
Midway through Dan's freshman season, what have you seen positively from him, and what have you seen that he kind of still needs to work on to meet that level you expect from him this year?
Yeah, Dan and Josh both. It's like anything. Their gifts jump off the page to me. I imagine they jump off the page to anybody that's watching. Like their length is so impactful. Our offensive rebounding numbers when those two were in the game like skyrocket. I mean, because they both not just go, but they have such a knack for the ball. At times, the ball pops around the floor better when they're in the game because they got a really good feel for how to play. And so when you got two freshmen that are playing significant minutes in your rotation, sometimes that can be a little frustrating, right? Because they just don't know what they don't know. And that goes for every freshman in the country. Even the guys that are on the top of the draft boards, if you're really watching, they're doing freshman stuff, even though they have incredible gifts. What's been good is they're getting this experience. They're playing extended minutes. They're playing in big games, and they're learning at a much faster rate than they otherwise would. And pretty soon here, they're not going to be freshmen. I mean, pretty soon this year, they're not gonna be playing like freshmen anymore. It's been really neat for both of them, because there's been some games where both of them have made really big impacts on the game. And it's usually started for both of them with what they're doing defensively and rebounding. And that's been neat to me, because that's how you really help a team win. And those two are starting to figure that out, and then the other stuff will come behind it. So, you know, Josh has won our defensive award a number of times. He rebounds the heck out of the ball. Dan's starting to defend more consistently. I mean, he's learning how to really contest shots. He seems like he blocks a jump shot, you know, every game, which has been pretty remarkable. That they're not lost anymore in our defensive schemes. And they're both rebounding, and they both have a lot more offense in there than they've probably shown everybody yet. But that's usually how it works to me in college basketball. You find a way to impact the game with the little things, and the other stuff starts coming, and they both are terrific shooters and decision makers and playmakers. And so I think the future for them, not long-term, short-term, is really bright, because there's a lot of stuff in there that they both can do.
With Dan specifically, he didn't shoot well the other night and struggled a little bit from the field, but he seems like he's driving, you know, trying to get to the rim, take good shots, and he's rebounding well. So do you just remind him, like, hey, I don't care if the shots aren't falling, because you like the things that he's doing on either end?
Absolutely. I mean, the quality of shots, what I'm concerned with, you know, and Dan's a good shooter. I believe in his jump shot. When he takes good shots, I could care less whether he misses or makes them, because I know over time he's going to make plenty of them. He's took better shots in that game, and then he's crashing the board. I thought he changed the game in that stretch that he got 4 offensive rebounds or whatever it was. It felt like every time it went up, he was going to go get one, and it changed the momentum of the game, and that's where you see some of the extended minutes.
Any other questions for Coach? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.